Hey there, English learners. Welcome back to Confident Speaking Podcast. This is Jessica, your host, and I'm super excited to have you join me today. Are you ready to go beyond just learning English from textbooks and really start speaking like a native English speaker? If so, you've definitely come to the right place. Our goal here isn't just to help you study English. It's to help you truly live and breathe it, speaking confidently and naturally every single day. We're focused on transforming not only your language abilities, but also your mindset. Because, as we believe, speaking with confidence starts from the inside out. And if you're new to our community, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now. You absolutely don't want to miss any of our daily, real-world English content, which will completely change the way you approach language learning. Today, we are taking another deep dive into the wonderful, sometimes frustrating world of English vocabulary. You know what? I've been teaching English for years, and I can tell you that even my most advanced students, we're talking people who've been studying English for decades, still stumble over these word pairs. It's honestly one of those things that makes English both absolutely fascinating and utterly maddening at the same time. Okay, we're diving deep into 21 word pairs that'll make your English sound so much more natural and confident. And trust me, by the end of this guide, you'll have those aha moments that make all the difference in your English journey. I've seen it happen countless times with my students, and it's always exciting to watch. Let me start with something I hear all the time in my classes, the confusion between grow and grow up. And honestly, I completely get it. They both seem related to getting bigger, right? But here's where it gets really interesting, and where understanding this distinction can make your English sound incredibly natural. When we talk about grow, we're talking about an increase in size, amount, quantity, strength, or importance. Think of it as expansion in any form. Your business can grow, your vocabulary can grow, your tomato plants can grow, your confidence can grow. Basically, anything that can increase or expand uses grow. I love using the business example because it's so clear and relatable. My company grew rapidly over the past 5 years. You're talking about expansion, success, getting bigger in terms of revenue, employees, market share, or influence. But grow up, that's exclusively for living beings, people and animals, who transition from childhood to adulthood. It's about maturation, development, becoming more mature, not just physical growth. When I say Lily is growing up so fast, I'm talking about her becoming more mature, more adult-like, developing emotionally and mentally. She's transitioning from being a child to being an adult. You simply cannot say, my business grew up. It just sounds completely unnatural, doesn't it? Now, here's where it gets really nuanced, and this is something that even some native speakers don't fully appreciate. You can actually use grow with people too, but it means something different. Lily is growing so fast means she's getting taller, bigger physically. Lily is growing up so fast means she's maturing, becoming more adult-like in her behavior and thinking. Here's a fun fact that always helps my students remember this distinction. You can ask someone, where did you grow up? But you'd never ask, where did your business grow up? It just doesn't work that way. The question is asking about where you spent your childhood, where you matured from a child into an adult, where you developed your early personality and values. Let me give you a practical example that brings both concepts together. As he grew up in a small village, nobody expected his small business to grow into a Fortune 500 company. See how that works? He matured as a person in the village, but his business expanded and increased in size and importance. Now we move to shade versus shadow, more than just light and dark. Oh, this one trips up so many students. I remember when I first started teaching, I naively assumed everyone knew the difference. Boy, was I wrong. Students would consistently mix these up, and I realized it's because both concepts involve blocked light, but they serve completely different purposes in English communication. Shade is that blessed cool area where direct sunlight is blocked, creating a more comfortable environment. It's your refuge on a hot summer day, your salvation when you're hiking and need relief from the sun. When you're at the beach and you say, let's sit in the shade, you're looking for that cooler spot under an umbrella, tree, or any structure that blocks the sun's rays. It's all about comfort, temperature relief, and finding a more pleasant environment. Shadow, on the other hand, is the actual dark shape or silhouette that appears when something blocks light. It's the dark outline you see projected onto surfaces. Remember making shadow puppets as a kid? Those dark shapes on the wall were shadows, not shade. I still do this with my nieces and nephews whenever I visit. It never gets old. Your dog might be scared of its own shadow, but it would never be scared of its own shade because shade isn't a shape or figure. Here's a tip that works every time. If you're trying to get cooler or more comfortable, you want shade. If you're looking at dark shapes on surfaces, you're seeing shadows. We typically say the shade with that definite article most of the time, but shadows can be singular or plural depending on what you're observing. Let me paint you a picture that uses both. My tomato plant isn't growing well because I planted it in the shade, an area where direct sunlight is blocked. That's about the growing conditions. But you might also say, I love watching the trees cast shadows on the fence in the evening, which is about the dark shapes created by blocked light. The grammatical patterns are important too. You'll hear let's sit in the shade much more often than let's sit in a shade. For shadows, you can say a shadow or shadows, depending on whether you're talking about one or multiple dark shapes. And next, assist versus attend. The helper versus the participant. This one's a real challenge, especially for my students who speak Romance languages like French, Spanish, Italian, or Portuguese. I see the confusion constantly, and honestly, it makes perfect sense why it happens. In many of these languages, there are similar looking words that mean something completely different, making this a classic false friend situation. Assist means to help or support someone actively. The key word here is someone. You assist a person, not an event or thing. You're taking action to help them succeed in their goals or tasks. When I say I assisted the organizers at the conference, I'm talking about helping specific people with their responsibilities. Maybe I helped them set up equipment, manage registration, or coordinate speakers. The focus is on actively helping people. Now, if you want to connect assist with an event, you need that crucial little preposition with. I assisted with the conference. Works, but it implies you helped with specific aspects of the event. You'd probably want to clarify exactly what you helped with. I assisted with the registration process. I assisted with technical setup, or I assisted with administrative tasks. This makes it clear what kind of help you provided. Attend is much simpler and more straightforward. It just means to be present at an event, meeting, class, or function. I attended the conference means you showed up. You were there. You participated as an attendee. You might have sat in the back, taken notes, networked with other participants, or just listened to presentations. No helping required. You're there as a participant, not as someone providing assistance. I always tell my students, you can attend without assisting, and you can assist without attending. For example, you might assist with conference planning for months, but not actually attend the event itself. Or you might attend a workshop without helping the organizers in any way. Here's a practical example that shows the difference. I attended the workshop yesterday and ended up assisting the presenter by fixing the printer. First, you were there as a participant. Then you helped someone with a specific task. Floor versus ground. inside versus outside living. This distinction is actually pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it, but I notice students mixing these up constantly in casual conversation, and I understand why. Both are surfaces you walk on, but the key difference is location and context. Floor is exclusively for indoor surfaces, the surface you walk on inside buildings, houses, offices, stores, anywhere with a roof and walls. Whether it's hardwood, tile, carpet, concrete, marble, or any other material, if you're inside a structure, you're walking on the floor. Please wipe your feet before walking on the floor makes perfect sense when someone's entering the house with muddy shoes. Ground is for outdoor surfaces: earth, grass, pavement, sidewalks, dirt paths, anything outside under the open sky. When it rains, the ground gets wet. When you're gardening, you plant things in the ground. When you're hiking, you walk on various types of ground: rocky ground, muddy ground, uneven ground. Here's what's interesting though. In casual conversations, especially when talking about dropping things or kids playing, people sometimes use them interchangeably. You might hear someone say, "Pick up those toys from the ground," even when they're inside, or "She dropped her keys on the floor," when they're outside. But if you want to sound precise and natural, stick to the indoor-outdoor rule. It shows you really understand the nuance and can use English with precision. Let me give you a scenario that uses both. The ground outside is soaking wet from the rain, and now I have muddy shoe marks all over my floor. Perfect example of outdoor ground and indoor floor in the same sentence. Yard versus lawn. The whole space versus just the grass. I have to admit, this one took me a while to explain clearly to my international students, because the concepts can be so different depending on where you're from. In some countries, these outdoor spaces are organized very differently, so the distinction might not be immediately obvious. A yard is the entire outdoor area around a home or building. Everything: the grass, the paved driveway, the garden beds, the patio, the deck, the fence, the trees, the flower beds, the walkways, the outdoor furniture. When someone says, "You have a beautiful yard," they're complimenting the whole outdoor space and all its components. It's comprehensive and includes every element of your outdoor area. A lawn is specifically the grassy area that you mow and maintain, just the grass. When you mow the lawn, you're cutting grass. When you water the lawn, you're watering grass. When you fertilize the lawn, you're treating the grass. The lawn is part of the yard, but the yard includes so much more than just the grassy area. The prepositions are interesting and important, too. Kids play in the yard because we think of it as an enclosed space with boundaries, but they play on the lawn because lawn is treated as a surface, like a carpet of grass. You can have a beautiful lawn in your backyard, or you might need to rake leaves from the lawn in your front yard. Here's a practical example. Her husband mowed the lawn while she watered the flowers in the yard. He was taking care of the grass specifically, while she was caring for other plants in the overall outdoor space. You can also specify different parts of your backyard, the enclosed space behind your house, or your front yard, the enclosed space in front of your house. Each of these areas might have its own lawn, garden beds, and other features. Sympathy versus empathy. Feeling sorry versus feeling with. Even native speakers get confused by these two. I've had countless discussions about this with colleagues, friends, and family members. And honestly, it's one of those distinctions that really matters in both personal and professional contexts. Understanding the difference can make you a better communicator and a more emotionally intelligent person. Sympathy is feeling pity or sorrow for someone's misfortune. It's that "I'm so sorry for your loss" feeling. You recognize that someone is going through something difficult, and you feel bad about their situation. You're sorry that they're experiencing pain or hardship. Sympathy cards exist for this reason. They express your sorrow about someone's loss or hardship. When you send flowers to someone who's grieving, you're expressing sympathy. Empathy is deeper and more complex. It's the ability to understand and share someone else's feelings. Instead of just feeling sorry for them, you're actually putting yourself in their shoes and understanding their emotional experience from their perspective. I understand the pain you're feeling right now is empathy in action. You're not just sorry for them, you're connecting with their actual emotional state. The difference becomes clearer when you think about how you express each one. Sympathy is often expressed through words and gestures. I'm so sorry for your loss. Sending a card, bringing flowers, or making a donation in someone's memory. Empathy is typically expressed through deeper engagement, listening carefully, asking thoughtful questions, sharing similar experiences, or simply sitting with someone in their pain. In the business world, empathy is absolutely gold. Great managers need empathy to really connect with their teams and understand what motivates different people. It's not just about feeling sorry when someone's having a tough time. It's about truly understanding their perspective and responding in a way that shows you get it. Here's an example that shows both. I appreciated the sympathy flowers you sent, but what I really needed was someone to talk to. I needed your empathy. The flowers expressed sorrow about the situation, but the person needed someone to truly understand and share their feelings. Fired versus layoff, performance versus economics. This is such an important distinction, and I always make sure my business English students understand it crystal clear because the implications are absolutely huge for your career and future job prospects. Being fired means being dismissed for poor performance, misconduct, or policy violations. It's essentially the company saying, you did something wrong or you weren't meeting our standards. When someone's fired, it's typically because of their actions, behavior, or lack of performance. Maybe they missed too many deadlines, violated company policies, had poor attendance, or simply couldn't do the job effectively. Being laid off is completely different. It's dismissal for economic reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with the employee's performance or behavior. Companies lay off workers when they can't afford to pay them, when business is slow, when they need to reduce costs, or when they're restructuring. It's not personal, it's purely economic. During COVID, for example, thousands of restaurant workers were laid off not because they were bad employees, but because there simply wasn't enough business to keep them employed. The terminology you use when describing your employment history matters enormously. Saying I was laid off versus I was fired sends completely different messages to potential employers. One suggests economic circumstances beyond your control, the other suggests performance or behavioral issues that might be concerning to a new employer. Here's a practical example. Jane was laid off when the project ended, and her husband was fired the same week for violating company policy. Jane lost her job because there was no more work, economic reasons. The husband lost his job because he did something wrong, performance, behavioral reasons. You'll also hear layoffs used as a noun. The company announced layoffs due to budget cuts, or we're trying to avoid layoffs by reducing expenses in other areas. Amount versus number, countable versus uncountable logic. This grammatical distinction is actually one of my favorite teaching points because once students really get it, they feel so much more confident about their English position. It's one of those rules that, once you understand it, makes everything else make more sense. Amount works with uncountable nouns, things you can't count individually. Think about the amount of water, the amount of sugar, the amount of information, the amount of time, the amount of money, or the amount of data. These are quantities that exist as masses or concepts rather than individual units. You can't say 5 waters or 3 informations. They don't work that way. Number works with countable nouns, things you can count individually. The number of books, the number of people, the number of cars, the number of mistakes, the number of students, the number of questions. These are items that exist as separate countable units. You can say 5 books or 3 students because they're individual countable items. Here's my simple test that works every time. If you can put a number in front of the noun, 5 books, 10 people, then you use number of. If you can't count it individually, 5 waters sounds weird. 3 informations is wrong. Then you use amount of. The verb agreement is important too. When you use number, the verb agrees with number, which is singular. The number of students is increasing. Even though students is plural, the subject is number, which is singular. Let me give you a practical example. We have a large number of tasks to complete for the conference, and there's still substantial amount of work left on the project. Tasks are countable. You can list them. Task 1, Task 2, Task 3. But work is uncountable. It's a general concept of effort and activity. Trip versus journey, practical versus transformative. I love this distinction because it shows how English can be both practical and beautifully poetic at the same time. It's one of those word pairs that really demonstrates the richness and expressiveness of the language. A trip is usually shorter, more practical travel for specific purposes. It's straightforward, with clear beginning and end points. You take a business trip to New York, a weekend trip to the mountains, a shopping trip to the mall, or even a quick trip to the grocery store. The focus is on the destination and the purpose. It's functional and goal-oriented. A journey, though, that's where English gets beautiful and meaningful. A journey suggests something longer, more significant, often transformative. It can be literal, like a journey around the world with lots of adventures and discoveries, or metaphorical, like your English learning journey. I always tell my students that learning English is a journey because it's a long process with challenges, setbacks, breakthroughs, discoveries, and personal growth. The metaphorical use of journey is particularly powerful and common in English. People talk about their career journey, their spiritual journey, their journey through recovery, their journey to parenthood, their journey through grief. These uses emphasize the process, the growth, the transformation, and the personal development that happen over time. It's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about what happens to you along the way. Here's a perfect example. We only planned a 2-week trip to Greece, but it turned into a real journey. The trip was the original plan, a vacation with a specific time frame, but it became a journey when it involved unexpected experiences, personal growth, or transformative moments. Live, life, and lives. The pronunciation puzzle. Okay, I have to be completely honest here. This one can be tricky even for native speakers when they're reading aloud. The pronunciation differences are absolutely key to getting this right, and the spelling similarities make it even more challenging. Live as a verb, pronounced like give with a short I sound, means to have life or to reside somewhere. It's about existence and location. I live in Canada. He lived for 90 years. They live in a beautiful house. The past tense is lived, and it conjugates normally. I live, you live, he lives, we live, and they live. Live, as an adjective, pronounced like 5 with a long I sound, means having life or happening in real time. Live music happens as you listen to it. Live television is broadcast as events occur. Live animals are alive rather than dead. I still get nervous about live presentations. There's something about that real-time element, knowing you can't edit or redo anything, that keeps you on your toes. Life, pronounced like wife with a long I sound, is the noun for the state of being alive, or the time between birth and death. You have an amazing life. Life is beautiful. He lived a long life. It's about existence, experiences, and the overall condition of being alive. Lives can be really tricky because it's pronounced two different ways depending on whether it's the plural of life or the third person singular of live. When it's the plural of life, it's pronounced like wives with a long I sound. Their lives were fulfilling. The accident changed their lives forever. When it's the verb form, it's pronounced like gives with a short I sound. She lives in Boston. He lives alone. Here's a sentence that uses multiple forms. I live in Boston, but I'm performing live in Chicago this month, and I'm having the time of my life. Did you catch the different pronunciations? Live, like give, for residing. Live, like five, for real-time performance. And life, like wife, for existence. You know what I find absolutely amazing about these word pairs? They show how precise and nuanced English can be. Each distinction serves a specific purpose in communication, and mastering them really does make your English sound more natural, confident, and sophisticated. It's the difference between speaking English and speaking English well. The truth is, even native speakers mix up some of these occasionally, especially sympathy and empathy, or amount and number in casual conversation. So don't worry if you make mistakes. That's completely normal and part of the learning process. What matters is understanding the underlying concepts and gradually incorporating them into your speaking and writing. I always encourage my students to notice how native speakers use these words in movies, podcasts, TV shows, and everyday conversations. Pay attention to the context, the situation, and the subtle differences in meaning. The more you encounter these distinctions in real communication, the more natural they become in your own speech. Here's something I've learned from years of teaching. These distinctions become automatic with practice, but they require conscious attention at first. Don't try to master all of them at once. Pick a few that you find most challenging or most relevant to your daily communication and focus on those. Practice them in context, use them in your own sentences, and gradually add more as you become comfortable. Remember, every mistake is just another step forward in your English journey. See what I did there? Each time you catch yourself using the wrong word and correct it, you're building stronger neural pathways and developing better language instincts. Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep using English in real conversations. That's where the magic happens, where these distinctions stop being rules you have to remember and start being natural choices you make automatically. Your English journey is unique, and these tools will help you communicate with greater precision and confidence along the way. I'll catch you in the next episode. Happy learning! Bye!